that don't want what we know out there.
How a person can go from really almost nothing to becoming a millionaire by owning rental properties.
He would always buy these flip houses, and I just remember thinking, this guy is crazy. Why would he buy that house?
In the past decade, there's been a huge surge in the peer-to-peer short-term rental market.
Become an insider. So you have to know the rules before you get the game.
Every second counts. So make every second count.
Welcome to the Real Estate Jam. Whether you're just beginning or the best of the best, we're glad you're here. We will share successes, failures, and strategies for the action-taking real estate investor. And now to your hosts, JD and Melissa.
Hi, guys. Welcome to the Real Estate Jam podcast. I'm JD with my wonderful co-host.
Hello, JD.
Melissa. How are you?
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, hey, we got a great show for you today. I'm really excited. This is a fellow podcast host and the owner of Reelvest. He specializes in all kinds of different things, has a whole bunch of experience in a lot of the real estate investing strategies. And we're really, really excited to have Pete Reese on. Pete, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, JD and Melissa. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Awesome. Well, for those of our audience that maybe don't know who you are, can you give us a rundown of how you got started, where you came from, and then I'm sure I'm going to have a ton of questions for you.
Sure. Well, I'll give you the kind of the brief bio, I guess, brief background bio. I started kind of real estate career, obviously, back in 2002, 2003, somewhere in there, flipping homes. So we would buy homes and then fix them up a little bit and then resell them. Started doing a lot of the work myself. Eventually realized that was not a good idea and I needed to hire people to help me get that done. So we were doing that and doing pretty well with that. I had gotten my broker's license at that point. We're out here in California, in San Diego. Got my broker's license and we're still doing flips. And I used that to kind of help me get better access to deals that were on the market because that's where I was finding my deals at the time. And then the market crashed, completely fell off a cliff here in California. And thankfully, that broker license came in handy because then I focused 100% on becoming like an REO listing broker here at the time, which basically meant selling foreclosures for the banks. So for a number of years, that was my sole focus, and I was just selling as many of those properties as I could. Through that, I actually got connected with a number of large investment companies that were just buying homes to flip, like I did previously. And so I was working with them and then just finding them deals, and they were pretty much my only clients, just working for investors and finding them as many deals as I could. So that was kind of cool. Got out of real estate altogether. I mean, I still kept my broker's license for a number of years after that. Started a business with my wife. She has been a blogger and travel blogger for a long time. So we developed a training program all around that. And then offered that, we had a whole company devoted to teaching people how to blog and travel blog. And then as part of that as well, we were kind of traveling all over the place. For a number of years, we were maybe 5-6 years straight. We were traveling for about 150 days out of the year to all different locations as a family of 5. So that was a really cool time period, but exhausting. Yeah. So then, I got the itch. I knew I wanted to get back into real estate and real estate investing specifically. And I was just kind of wondering, like, what model should I get into? And I was doing a lot of research online, and I didn't really want to get back into house flipping because, just the logistics were pretty tough for me to work out with the contractors and everything associated with that. I just knew how tough it was. So I was a little concerned to get back into that again. So I read some stuff about land flipping. People were buying just vacant land and then reselling it quickly. And, stories of like, hey, I bought this property for $10,000. I sold it for $30,000. And I thought, well, that's pretty cool. I'd like to triple my money on every single one of my deals. So it sent me down this rabbit hole. I bought a training program on it. I just learned as much as I can on the business model and how to generate the leads and how to evaluate land. Because obviously I knew how to evaluate, single family homes that like the back of my hand, but land was a whole different thing. And you need to look at it in a different way, really. So I ended up doing our first deal in March of 2021 is when we resold our first property. And then at the end of 2021, we ended up doing about 1.2 million and some change in revenue and about 50% gross profit margin. So on average, we're trying to buy a property and double our money after all fees and expenses and everything. So that was 2021. 2022 ended up doing about 3.5 million and just shy of that 50% gross profit margin, but still pretty close. And then 2023 looking to do 10 million. So scaling it as quickly as we can.
That's super awesome.
Yeah, that is great. Now, I'm wondering, can you tell us a little bit about, what your team looks like now? Are you doing this? Are you doing everything by yourself and working 80 hours a week? Do you have a team built up? Is it virtual or in person? What are you working with?
Yeah, I've got a pretty large team built up at this point. We're all remote. So I've got a number of our team members in the United States, and then I've also got some assistants overseas as well. So depending on the role, it's just kind of finding the best fit for that role. But, I've got like an acquisition manager that does all the communication with the property owners. I've got a property analyst that analyzes all the potential deals that come through the door. I've got a transaction manager that, basically they handle the transaction from when we get it under contract on the purchase side and then on the resale side as well. I've got a lead and due diligence manager that puts all the leads into our CRM and then orders all the due diligence. And we've got an executive assistant that helps keep the team together. Recently hired on an asset manager that kind of works all these kind of minor value add projects that we do, and then also manages the listings. So just a number of different team members involved, and then I've got a couple of other assistants that kind of fill in some of the pieces and some of the areas where we need more help. So
awesome. So you have this pretty good size team that everyone's doing their part. What does your process look like? So you're getting some leads, you're qualifying the deals, and then I guess my question is, where are you inside of the value chain?
Sure. Well, we generate all of our business with direct mail. So we send out letters to, we'll put together a big list, and it's kind of a broad list, and we'll take a particular region and then maybe a bunch of counties in that region, and then we'll say, okay, all the properties that are 10 acres and above that are just vacant land, we'll send to that whole list. I mean, we'll obviously filter out obvious non-sellers like a utility company or the railroad or something like that. So we'll take those records off the list, but then we'll send out to pretty much everyone else on that list. And then that gets the phone ringing, gets the emails and the text coming in. So that generates all of our leads. But as far as where I'm at in the process, I'm just pretty much at this point, reviewing all the deals that we're buying, just kind of making sure that I do want to move forward with those properties and sort of filling in the gaps, when there's questions from team members or solving problems that come up or coming up with strategies with particular properties. Because we do sometimes do some things to these properties like minor value add stuff. We might get some paths cleared or a perk test done or a survey done or something like that. So I kind of, help come up with a strategy for each of these properties. But yeah, my focus is just kind of trying to get myself out of a job. Really, I'm trying to bring on and train team members to kind of replace me so I can just kind of focus on bringing more business in the door, more leads coming in.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We can feel you on that one for sure.
Yeah, that's
what we're trying to do too.
Where we want to be.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, well, so how are you just dispoing the properties? Are you taking them down, doing a double close? Are you assigning any of the deals? Or what does that look like for you, or a little bit of both?
Sure. Well, our whole process is we actually close on the properties with our own cash. So we buy them with our own cash. Part of our process, part of our due diligence process is we're trying to establish relationships with local land brokers, throughout the country and all these different regions. And we ask them for a little bit of assistance on the buy side, basically having them give their opinion on what they think they can resell it for. And then as soon as it closes, we list it with them to resell it for us. So we always use agents unless in the rare circumstance we can't find a land specialist in that particular area. But we always use agents or brokers to resell the properties for us because and we pay 10% commission. We're trying to be, we're trying to be their best client. We want it to be a win-win for both sides. And, so that's kind of our perspective on things.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah.
I really like that.
Of course. Well, the problem with a lot of land, and I don't know if this is what you guys are buying or if you're all over, but a lot of the leads that come into our pipeline on the investment side, there might not be any type of distress or um motivation to sell at a discount. So then I'll take those leads and hand them directly over to a broker who will list, or one of the agents on Melissa's team actually, and they'll list them. But the problem is, around here the standard commission is 5%. So 5% on a $10,000 lot, it really almost isn't even worth the time for the agent to do it.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
10% helps.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And we're trying to, on the resale side of things, I think probably most of our properties now are probably at least 40,000 and above, to maybe, the highest probably 600,000, somewhere in that range. But I don't know. I try to think things through from, like, we're trying to build partners in all these different areas and we want to make it worth their while. So obviously we'll try to do as many deals as we can in that particular area, but it's at least you got to pay like a hefty commission. So it's worth it for them to actually, list the property for us. So.
Right. And if they're a good agent and they're getting those properties moved for you, it's completely worth that extra expense. And if they're going to give you preferential treatment or response because you're paying them more, and
Right.
if you got 50% markup or 100% markup on your deals, it makes sense for you. It's kind of a win-win-win type of situation.
Yeah, and we price things too so they'll sell quickly. So that's part of our strategy as well. We're not trying to get full retail.
Yeah.
Depending on how hot the area is, we might be pricing at 80% of retail or 90 in some of the hotter areas, but we want to sell things quickly. So I don't want these listings to be out there with these agents for, 6 months or a year or something like that. It's not productive for either of us, really. So.
Sure, that makes a lot of sense. What does your buy box look like? What is your criteria? Are you just going out and throwing everything at the wall, seeing what sticks, and if it gets it, or do you have hey, it needs to be this kind of property that falls within these parameters, roughly this value, and going after those targeted land lots?
Yeah, so most of the areas at this point we're either doing, depending on how the pricing in that particular area, we're doing at least 5 acres or 10 acres and above. But I know a lot of other investors do lower, in the smaller properties and things. But, these are kind of mostly rural areas. So, and those end up being, at least the 40 or, $50,000 sale price and above. So that's kind of the range that we're trying to stay in. And I'll go as big as we can get them. Biggest property we bought was 650 acres. So I would go much bigger if a deal dropped in our lap that was like,
Sure.
that would make sense. But
Absolutely. And then how are you deciding what to make your offer on? So here's the what the broker says it can sell for 100,000. So you put the offer in at 50 and hopefully it gets there, or is there some sort of standard that you guys employ in your business in regards to that?
yeah, good question. There's kind of 2 parts to that. So all these letters that we send out are actual offers.
Mhm.
So we send out actual offer prices to all these people. Well, it's impossible when we send out 50,000 letters a month at this point. So it's impossible to evaluate each one of these properties and determine an accurate, price on each of those. So we're just taking averages for a particular area, an average price per acre, and we're doing a little math and we're coming up with an offer price based off of that. So as far as a percentage goes, so say we're looking at a retail price that's $10,000 per acre or something like that. So we would probably, depending on the area, we may be offering 3,500 or 4,000 per acre, something like that. And then, the ultimate goal is, and then on the resale side, we're not selling it for 100% retail either. So when all is said and done, we're trying to double our money.
Mhm.
So, that 35 to 40%, a lot of times we'll normally get that done. So if we end up there. But the problem is, it's not a problem, but it's just the way it is that when these people respond, each property is different. So
Mhm.
those are just based off of averages. So when the deal comes in and the lead comes in, we have to evaluate it and say, okay, well, we can't pay that much because 90% of the property is wetlands,
Yeah.
or it's landlocked, or some it's on the side of a mountain or something like that. And then we obviously at that point decide, well, do we even want to buy it at all? If we do want to buy it, like, here's what it would take to make sense. And sometimes we'll put out offers and it's a premium property and we were too low, and the property owner wants more for it, and we'll definitely, if it makes
Mhm.
sense for us to come up, we'll come up on the price as well. So it's just, it's each individual property we
Yeah.
have to really dig into it. So,
Yeah. Awesome.
and sometimes we're right on, that happens too, quite a bit, but it just, you never really know until you really look at each property, because every property is so different.
Yeah, for sure.
Sure. And I'm sure you're tracking your or looking at your either one, what's your time from accepted offer to close? I don't know if you're tracking that, but I assume that that's something. I'm wondering, are you doing inspection periods in your offers or that kind of stuff, and how many days are you allowing for that side of it?
Yeah, typically we can get them closed in 30 days on the
Mhm.
buy side. Sometimes, a little bit quicker, but it really depends on how long the title search takes. That's really the big holdup in most of all these areas. I would get them closed as quick as we could have some basic due diligence done, but normally we're being held up with title. I mean, we're buying everything through a title company or an
Mhm.
attorney or escrow or whatever the state requires, because I want there to be good and marketable title on the
Yeah.
resale side, because you don't want any sort of those issues to kind of bite you there. But so that's the big constraint. But so then the buy side, typically 30 days. Sometimes it takes a little longer if there's a complicated air situation or some paperwork that's
Right.
got to be provided. All these different situations can come up. But on the resale side, on average, we're holding these properties for 60 days only. So, and that accounts for marketing time and then under contract time. So, as an average, 60 days. Some properties end up taking much longer. Some properties can actually close much quicker too. So, some
Mhm.
property, I think our record's been like 2 weeks or something like that.
Yeah.
So,
So are you looking at getting surveys prior to purchase, or are you making the end buyer, the retail buyer, run a survey on that? Are you doing anything to kind of speed that process along? A lot of our land deals take greater than 90 days from start to finish. So I'm wondering if you're doing anything that kind of accelerates that process.
yeah, a lot of them we don't get surveys on them, especially if there's been some sort of survey in the past, or if there's, some sort of well-defined legal description on there, we won't get a survey. Obviously sometimes the buyers will want one on their side, but we generally don't get a survey unless we're planning to do, say, like a minor subdivision or something like
Mhm.
that. But so, or if it's required for title, sometimes they'll require it. So.
Awesome. Well, I know that you guys just started your podcast. Would you mind sharing some information about that for to our listeners, and
Sure.
maybe if they like what you're saying and want to find out more about you, how they can get in contact with you too?
Sure. Yeah. So the podcast is called Turning Profit, and it's with myself and my wife Heather. So we've been in business for a long time together, and she kind of handles the back end of the business that doesn't get seen out in front. She's not evaluating these deals, but she's doing all the financial side of things for us. But we co-host the podcast together, and it's a lot of about land investing and land flipping. We also cover some other real estate investing models as well, and have some
Mhm.
interesting guests on. But to find that, you would just go to our website, which is turningprofit.com. And on there, if you are at all interested in land flipping, or at least digging into it, seeing what it's all about, I post a monthly income report on there every single month. I do a whole big post about and video about how things went for our business that month, like the revenue we took in, the gross profit for that month, every single deal we resold that month. I specified like what we bought it for, what we sold it for, how many days we held it for, like all this data, and kind of just an idea of, so you could see what maybe is possible in this
That's
business,
cool.
because Yeah. I mean,
That's
you know,
totally
it just
different.
wasn't. Yeah, and trying to be different and transparent.
Well,
So,
yeah, and that's the thing. There's so much smoke and mirrors in this industry, from the gurus to the little old investor who doesn't want to share any of his knowledge. To have an open door on real numbers, real profits, and real deal flow with somebody who's doing over $1 million a year in revenue is phenomenal. If you guys don't get over there to take advantage of seeing that, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. That is an awesome awesome thing that you're doing. A lot of people wouldn't be comfortable doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I figure, you know, and people ask me all the time, like, why would you do that? I don't have a training program or anything to sell. I'm going to be releasing a free one here pretty soon, but I figure down the road, maybe I'll offer maybe a mentorship program or something like that. And I know by doing this, I'm going to just be able to get out there and maybe partner with people on deals. And, there will be a lot of benefits that come of it. So I'm not really worried about
that's a huge credibility
monetizing that
boost.
in any way.
Yeah, that's super cool. I love that.
Yeah. Most of the people you see on the internet do 1 or 2 deals a year and are really good at marketing and coaching.
Yes. Yeah. That's for sure.
Well, Pete, thank you so much for coming on the show. You had a ton of knowledge. I'm sure we could talk for 3 more hours, but I really, really do appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you
so much. Guys for having me. I really appreciate you guys having me on here. So.
Awesome. We'll see you next time.
All right. See ya.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Jam. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. For more information, check out our website, therealestatejam.com. Or find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at The Real Estate Jam. If you have any questions, feel free to drop us an email at therealestatejam@gmail.com. See you next episode.